I look like I'm nuts.
Hi,
Yeah.
hi everybody. Welcome to Elaine's Extreme Paranormal channel, and I'd like to welcome our very special guest tonight. Her name is Katie Turner. She's a psychic, she's a reader, she's a paranormal investigator, and she also is the founder of her own team, the Canadian Supernatural Research Society. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate that, Katie. And would you mind telling us something about yourself, please?
Well, thank you, Elaine, for having me. It's a pleasure. Well, I have been psychic my whole life. It has been a normality for me, and I really want to bring it to the forefront. I really want people to believe that the supernatural paranormal side of things is real. In fact, that we do experience paranormal activity, and if we can capture it and I can find it, then we're going to present it.
That's great. So you've been investigating for quite some time then, I gather?
I have. I've been investigating for many years. I founded my team a few years ago, and we've been doing paranormal investigations ever since.
That's great. So do you have any favorite places that you've investigated, or what would you say about that?
There are some favorites of mine. I can say, probably speak for the team and say there's some favorites of the team. There is one location located in Round Lake, Ontario. It's called Buck Hill Road. It's a very famous legend that takes place there, and we've had a lot of success. We've captured audio, visual. People have been scratched. Disembodied voices, not only on a video perspective, but in audio or in captured on camera, still photography as well. So
That's great. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Buck Hill. And speaking of the team, yes, Kat Ward wanted me to mention to you that she really misses the team, and she wanted me to say hi to you, and I assured her that I would.
well,
But okay, I'd better do that right now before I forget, because heaven knows what else could happen with me.
well, we certainly miss Kat. She was a very valuable member of the team. It's unfortunate
Yeah,
we had to lose her, but she's got a really good team now, and where she's located, and she's always welcome to come back. If she ever wants to come back, she can.
oh, that's nice to know, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so what gave you the indication that you had these psychic abilities? Like when you were very young, or did this develop as you became an adult? How did that happen?
Well, I always tell everybody that for many years I was a closet psychic. I wasn't very open to the fact that I had these abilities. It's something that can be judged and can be taken as a taboo. Ever since it's certainly before my own memories, but my parents have memories of things I would tell them, and events that were going to take place and people who were going to come and visit, and they would in fact come true. So I can say, it's ever since I was born, it has happened to me. And it's normal for me. It's not something that people say, well, how can you go on daily tasks and not be overthrown by seeing dead people or hearing things? It's just normal for me. It's a normal day life.
Hmm. Yeah, I can well imagine, because I know you probably are aware of it. Kat maybe have told you that I grew up in a haunted house, and so I was used to hearing and seeing things too. But
Mm-hmm.
at the time, let's see, I'm 68. I'll be 69 this July.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, when I was a kid, you couldn't talk about it too much. You had to kind of keep it quiet, or people would think you were certifiable. So do you find that people are more open yourself now?
I think confidence is the strong point. Yes, I have to say people are a lot more open than years ago. It is becoming mainstream. People are taking it seriously, and I think more people are open to
Yeah.
speaking about it. But I think confidence is the key factor. As long as we're confident about it, and I tell people, I am who I am. I'm not a closet psychic anymore. This is what I can offer. This is what I see. It is what it is, and I think that people need to be confident. Most people in life are psychic. It's whether they actually work on it or not. And some of the bumps in the night, yes, it could be the mouse under the stairs, but for the most part, it is something potentially paranormal. So
Yeah, and the paranormal world is really something else. I know, and it affects everybody differently. Like, I know when I was a kid, I used to be terrified by it, and then when I became an adult, I thought, well, I want to investigate more into it and see what I can do to help people who are going through the same thing. So did you have that kind of a thing happen to you too?
I did. From the time that I was very little, I grew up on a farm, and the farm that I grew up on, in particular, there was some pretty cool haunted situations that occurred. I can't say it was haunted all the time. I don't think it was an earthbound ghost that was stuck there, but where I live, it's almost, or grew up, I should say, it was almost like a vortice. And there were events that took place that really kind of scared me as a kid, but it scared me in a way that it intrigued me, and I wanted to learn more. I wasn't as much frightened, but I was kind of taken back by, watching something whip across the room and not see where it was coming from. And, visions, I remember at one time I was walking a fence line at my farm, and I looked over and I saw these two children in period clothing. And it was the middle of the summer. It was the middle of July, and I saw these two children. One had to be maybe 7 and the other one was maybe 9. And they were throwing leaves in the air as if it was in the middle of the fall. Now, did I walk into a different timeline and I was experiencing a residual effect? Or was it, in fact, a haunting that an intelligent? They did look at me, and as soon as they saw me or saw what I guess I could have appeared to them as spirit, they turned, they acknowledged I was there, they looked frightened, and they disappeared. But that isn't an everyday occurrence at that farm. And ever since those occurrences, I knew that I was at least clairvoyant. I could see. And the rest of my abilities have evolved. I like to tell people I'm clairaudient, clairescent, clairvoyant, empathic, and clairconscient. So I can see, and I can hear, and I can feel. I pick up emotions. And I know. It's the act of knowing. So there's kind of a Heinz 57 effect in my psychic abilities.
Yeah. You kind of sound to me like you might be an empath as well.
I am. Yes, there is empathic.
Yes.
I do pick up feelings and pain. Walking to a hospital isn't always fun for me. But
I can imagine.
And depending on the person I read, depending on the situation I walk into, with our team, it's dependent on what emotions I get. Sometimes I can see more than I feel. Sometimes I can hear more than I see. Sometimes I only pick up pain, or it just depends on how the spirit is working the kinesis, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can well imagine. So,
Yes.
I mean, all these talents combined, I mean, gee, you must lead a pretty busy schedule.
I am. I actually quit my full-time job, and I am now reading full-time. So paranormal is a full-time thing for me. If I'm not out investigating with my team, I am conducting my own readings for people, and I travel all over. I like to go to somebody's house rather than they come here, because I feel that they're more comfortable and I can give them a clear reading. So paranormal is my world.
It certainly seems like it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like I know when I first became an adult, I thought, oh, gee, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do this kind of stuff or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really until I was able to retire 3 years ago that it started to really meld,
Mm-hmm.
that I was able to actually do the investigations and, devote an awful lot more time to it. And I've been writing about it since, and gee. Yeah, it's an interesting field for darn sure.
I really think it is an addictive field. It is something that becomes an addiction.
Yes.
And I don't like to say we obsess about it, but as paranormal investigators, you're always searching for the unknown, and it's that dog chasing the bone. You're looking for that class A, or you're looking for, that perfect image or video, or, a disembodied voice. And I think until we find the Holy Grail, we're going to keep, we're going to obsess about it.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, I know, like on these TV shows, they always have apparitions appear. They always get EVPs, and 9 times out of 10, they're Class A's, And it just makes me laugh because, in real life, it doesn't happen that way. And sometimes investigations take 2 or 3 visits to really get anything. Do you find the same thing there where you are?
Oh, definitely. And I think what people need to realize the most is TV has a real cinematic way of doing things. And I don't want to discredit the television shows. CSRS has been part of we're very proud to be part of a television show that will be coming out in mid-March. We're now on season 3 of Paranormal Survivor. But I have to say that with a lot of the TV shows, they don't realize that they have been investigating for many hours, and there are periods of time that nothing occurs. We may have to go back 2 or 3 times, or we may have to spend 8 hours at a location trying to find one EVP. Hauntings, it's sometimes what we used to do is we used to conduct interviews before we did an investigation. So we would go to the location and speak with the clients. We find that we don't do that anymore. We will do the investigation and the interview at the same time, because we found that a lot of the spirits were actually hiding or being quiet during our investigations, and we like to kind of hit it up and get in there and do it all at once, and it knocks them off guard. And we find that we can investigate a little bit better and get more evidence that way.
Yeah, that's great. Do you sometimes find too that when you go into a particular location, all the spirits are reputed to do this, to do that, etc., but then when you get in there, they don't do a darn thing, and they more or less make the people who are making the claim look like liars?
Yes, a common theme again when we're doing investigations is people say, you have to believe me, this is really happening. And I really take them for, seriously. EMF is a natural phenomenon. It's something that, with any electronics that are happening in the house, or any hydro coming in, or any water, it is a natural reaction. You're going to get EMF. And we find that when the spirits are really hiding, you're not getting any. And we know right away, it's almost a negative effect. So we know that they're there. And I often tell the clients, don't worry about it. It's there. We will get something. And usually we do. It may not be a lot, but we do. We come out with something usually every time.
Yeah. Have you ever, do you use the Mel meter at all? I know I use it a fair bit on my investigations as well, but I'm just wondering how many times, if you do use that, or do you use the temperature gauge at all, have you ever found the temperature 66.6?
We have. I don't use a Mel meter, not because I don't enjoy it, but we use other tools. We have a heat signature gun, so in terms of temperature, we can see that on screen. We also use a temperature meter as well, and we have EMF meters. So combined, we'll use those together. We have had an occurrence where it went to 666, and that was actually at Buck Hill Road. And
oh wow,
yeah, it was pretty cool.
I can just imagine. I've heard so much about Buck Hill. I would love to investigate.
If you're ever in the area, we'll take you. It is something that it's a have to see. It is. There's been many paranormal teams that have gone and haven't gotten anything, and we're pretty lucky. We go with an open mind, and we have gotten a lot of evidence actually.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if I'm mistaken or not. Is that fairly close to Witch Hollow, or are they two different locations?
Witch Hollow, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is actually a little bit farther south. So Buck Hill Road is close to Round Lake, Ontario, and a lot of people don't know Round Lake was actually a meteor that hit. And so there's a lot more supernatural activity that's happening, if it's magnetic forces that are at work there. But Witch Hollow is a little bit farther south. I believe it's closer to the Lanark Hills, so closer to Carleton Place in Ottawa.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I would love to see that too.
Yes, it's a must-see as well. Yes.
Yeah, I can just imagine. I know there's a place right here in the Gravenhurst area that used to be a tuberculosis hospital. It was the old sanatorium.
Ooh.
And then it became residence for developmentally challenged people.
Mm-hmm.
And it closed in 1994. However, when they closed the place up, moved everyone out, somebody, I don't know whether it was through neglect or just sheer stupidity, forgot to shut off the water. And so as it turned out, the whole building was just so flooded. Like in the wintertime, it's a skating rink in there, because I've seen some pictures of it. But the new owner won't allow anyone in unless they have $5 million worth of insurance. So, needless to say.
And I'll tell you, our team tries to do things very legitimately, and I would love to find out another paranormal team out there that can get liability insurance to investigate it. It's something that is not easy to find. Right. It's that's a very taboo subject that a lot of companies don't want to touch. So,
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, well, it's just a paranormal investigation. Let's, ignore these idiots, that kind of a thing.
Pretty much.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, we've had some occasions where there were some police officers that did not take us seriously, and they ended up staying and investigating with us. So they were believers by the end of the night. They looked a little
All
differently.
right.
Yeah, they had a different song in the horn, but yeah,
Well, that's good.
yeah,
That's good. It's really nice, especially when you've got somebody who's so, no, I don't believe it. Ghosts don't exist. It's all nonsense. And then they end up believers. That's really kind of encouraging,
yeah.
So,
The world is a very scientific Western way of thinking, and it needs to be in your hands. It has to be tangible in order to be believable. And the way I explain to people is picture a river, picture a body of water. A body of water is energy, just like air. So a
mhm.
human is a body of energy. It is all one. When I get up to go to the fridge because I'm hungry, all of me goes there. But as a spirit or the spiritual realm, that's the air. It's all around us. It's over the water, it's around the water, but it's also here as I'm breathing it at the same time. So it's a different form of energy. And I think once people can understand that and grasp that, that's when they start to become believers. And they can understand that, that paper that moved that had no reason to move, was moved by something that is unexplainable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting field, I must admit. I really enjoy working in that particular area.
Mhm.
And it's amazing, though, the number of people that say, well, because they have activity in their home, automatically they assume it's demonic. And demonic is really considerably rare
Yes.
um, in comparison to the other types of hauntings that people have.
Yes. When we go into investigations, that's one of the biggest fears, that people have been scratched or bitten, and, it's a demon. The demon is there. I need an exorcism. And I explain to people that, although being bitten is not a very positive thing, if Aunt Margaret was trying to get a hold of you for the last 3 years and you're not catching on, she's going to throw that cup to get your attention. That doesn't mean it's
Yes.
demonic. Having said that, in certain situations we have been in, we have done clearings, and we have encouraged clients to leave the residence or leave the location because we are afraid for them. It doesn't mean it's demonic, but it can potentially be a very evil or angry spirit that can cause a lot of problems. And people don't realize that spirits have the capabilities of causing cancer and causing sickness and disease. It goes far more than being scratched and bitten or having something thrown at you.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah. And they certainly don't like to be ignored. I know they like to be acknowledged. Like
Yes, they
I'm
do.
very active here at home. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. No, they do. They can be very active. Do you find that when you're doing investigations, that they're active during a certain time of the year, or time of the month, or time of the day? When do you find it to be more active when you're investigating?
Well, to be honest with you, I've never really found that there's been a great difference. Like, okay, like let's get back to the TV shows. They say turn off the lights and then do your investigation from there. Myself, I don't bother with turning the lights off. I figure if they're going to appear, they will appear whether it's daylight or whether it's night. Um, I've never really found any particular difference. There are some places that I've gone, and my partner and I, in investigations, we've noticed that, sometimes we don't notice a great deal. Other times, all kinds of stuff can happen. So I don't really have anything to gauge it by. Every place is different. Every investigation is different.
Hmm. We do a lot of investigations at night,
Okay.
particularly because there's a lot of cross contamination in the light. It's really hard to black windows out. It's really hard to close curtains for some houses, and the daily
Yeah.
grind of business that's occurring. It's very rare that you go into the middle of the country with no sound. So we find that it's easier for cross contamination. Um, in terms of putting the lights out, I think with our night vision cameras, we potentially can pick up a little bit more. But I think you're right. It's not going to pick a particular hour to haunt worse than the other. It's just when you're cognizant of it. And I think that's why a lot of people feel that it's the witching hour or the evenings that they notice it, is because they're actually quiet. They're gone to bed, or they're sitting quietly reading or watching TV. They're not focused on what they have to do that day. and that's when you're going to get the most activity, or notice it anyway.
Most likely, yeah. Yeah, as you say, the outside contamination, like cars going by and this kind of a thing, and maybe kids playing outside, that type of thing. And it could certainly have an effect on when they show up or whether they decide to show up or not.
Right. Oh, definitely. Children have a wonderful way of bringing spiritual activity into the home. And I shouldn't say bringing it into the home, but they acknowledge it a little bit more. They're a lot more open to it. I tell people society hasn't gotten to them yet, and they're still innocent. So they're going to experience a lot more. And I think spirits see that innocence, and not that they consider it vulnerable, but they either want to protect or communicate because they know they see them. They know that they're there.
I think so. Yeah, and of course, I find too that spirits are quite often attracted to kids, whereas they are not so much to adults. I think probably because kids are more open to it, they're not so terrified of it. Do you find the same thing?
I do. I find that children are more intrigued. They're curious. But
Yes.
again, what we tell people is, when you're growing up and you're working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, there's Christmas, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Thanksgiving. Society has kind of created our way of thinking, and whether we realize it or not, we do as society wants us to do. Children are still innocent. Children are not prejudiced. They don't. I mean, they have their moments, but in terms of being open, they don't know. They can't explain what they're seeing, but the walls have not gone up yet. So they can be a little bit more sensitive, and I think that all children are sensitive. I think everybody in the world is sensitive. It's whether they work on it or not, or whether they're cognizant of it.
Right. I mean, I've heard all my life that everyone has some psychic ability. It all depends on whether or not they nurture it, whether they try to develop it.
Well, I'll tell you, as I do readings, I feel I get more accurate. My accuracy is getting better. I mean, not every moment of every day I can say I'm 100% correct. I don't think any psychic out there is, but
No.
I do feel more confident in the answers that I'm given. And I think even as paranormal investigators, each member of my team started out saying, well, we don't really have abilities like you do. And I said, yes, you do. You just haven't found them yet. And each one of them said, no, I don't think so. And now being comfortable with the rest of my team and they're comfortable with me, they're not afraid to say, oh, I felt that, or I heard that, or, being scratched, or one member of my team, April, she's amazing at smells. She picks up smells like you wouldn't believe. She knows immediately. Another member of my team is Jackie. She is very, very good at picking up emotions. She has a real hypersensitivity to that. And another member of my team, Katie, she's really good at hearing sounds. She can pick up stuff, she'll say, what was that? A lot better than the rest of us. And there's another member of my team, Jody. She is amazing at picking up temperature. She can tell you in a heartbeat. We don't even need a temperature gun because she really feels a temperature change, and it is bang on. So I think society takes that for granted. People take that for granted and think they write it off like it's a normal thing. And again, once you're cognizant of it, and once you realize that it is an instinct, it is an ability, that's when you start bending and breaking down the subconsciousness and allowing things to happen to you.
I think so. Yes, I agree with you 100%. I know all my life I fought against it because I figured I am an empath. Mm-hmm. And I fought against it all my life, figuring that there's just something mentally wrong with me. But as it turned out, it was just...
I'm losing you here.
Oh, dear.
I'm losing you. I got you back there. I got you back.
That's okay.
There.
That happens. But yeah, I fought it until my 65th year, like when I retired. And finally I accepted, okay, I'm an empath, so I accept what I am and who I am, and things have straightened out an awful lot more that way since. I wish I had acknowledged it and accepted it an awful lot sooner.
It's a hard thing to accept, People tell you every day on how things are supposed to be. We think of things being pretty because it's put on a commercial. The type of clothing to popular items. And I'm losing you again, sorry. And it is, it's once you kind of own it and you own yourself and you know what it is you're dealing with, that's when it's going to get even stronger. And it's going to happen on a stronger basis for you. So
happening over there?
I'm having technical difficulties here. All of a sudden, see this little angelic line. I'm trying to get rid of it, and I cannot seem to get rid of it. But there, it's sliding. It doesn't want to slide, but it's sliding. That's a little bit better.
Well, you know, it was funny. One night there was Kat Ward and Patricia LeBlanc,
Right?
Her cousin,
Mm-hmm.
and the two of them were on the show with me. And all of a sudden, right about I guess about here, this black shadow started coming, and it kept getting darker and darker, and it was trying to like kind of envelop the whole scene.
Yes.
And that was very weird. And yet I could see it in the camera.
Mm-hmm. I
couldn't see it around me, but I could see it in the camera, and I didn't feel any fear or anything. It was just, what the heck is it doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a little ghost that I call Ebenezer. I'm not 100% if Ebenezer is a male or a female, but I just gave the ghost the name Ebenezer.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, first Kat said, go away, go away. And the shadow left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then all of a sudden, as we were talking, the shadow came back, and I said, Ebenezer, is that you? And as soon as I said that, away it went.
Oh my goodness.
So,
now you have a haunting on command. That's pretty good.
I think so. Good grief.
Yeah.
But like I was saying to Kat and some other people that I've been talking to, I always say good morning and I always say good night to the friendly spirits.
Yes.
And I tell the unfriendly spirits, you're not welcome here. God's not going to allow you here. If you are here, leave quick. But I always say good night and good morning to the friendly ones.
Oh, there. I think we've got it sorted. Acknowledging them, I think, that's when you deal with an intelligent spirit. That's when you know that they're intelligent because they're going to interact with you back and forth. I think when you start to communicate with them and they realize that you can see them too, or you can feel them, then that's when things get even better.
Oh, yeah.
Or for some people worse, but for us, it's even much better.
Yeah. Like I haven't actually seen them yet, but I have had some pranks pulled on me.
Right on.
Let's put it that way.
Yes. We've had some pranks pulled on us too. We were at an investigation in Gold Lake, Ontario, which is very close to Round Lake, as a matter of fact, and it's a native reserve. And in one instance, I was surrounded by the rest of my team, and there was 6 or 8 of us there, including the clients, and they all witnessed me put this battery into my audio recorder, and we all exited the house, and we were going to this one specific spot outside that was very active, and I went to turn it on, and it wouldn't turn on, and I thought, what's going on? So I said, can somebody hold the flashlight up to me? And so they were pointing it at the audio recorder, and let me tell you, there wasn't even a battery in it. This particular audio recorder it kind of snaps to get into place. There's no way that it could just fall open. And
Exactly.
Talk about practical jokes, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, little devils, they can get you at the worst times. Like, one of the things that I have here, they make things disappear on me. Like, I can be sitting here at this desk, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and I could have this pen in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, I go to reach for it to write something, it's gone.
It's gone.
I look, and I look, and I look.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll have things fall from the surface down to the floor. When I look down at the floor, because I know where it's fallen.
Yes.
It's not there.
Yeah. That phenomenon is occurring a lot more. We've been doing some research about that, and they're actually feeling that it is interdimensional. That this world is going through a shift in dimensions. They feel that there's parallel universes that are occurring at the same time, and that things are actually shifting back and forth. Conspiracy theorists are really kind of going towards that direction. And I'm not saying it's not paranormal or supernatural. I'm a firm believer it is, but there's a little bit of both happening. That it
I
just
think so.
comes back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I agree with you. It's just, I don't know, so many things have been changing so much. Like, even our weather patterns, like, they've changed so much. And I'm darn sure that the supernatural pattern is going to change as well. So
There's going to be
something we just have to accept.
Yeah, there's going to be an awakening happening. I don't know if all you viewers out there have ever heard of the Mandela effect. And I'm not trying to get away from paranormal, but the Mandela effect is such that Nelson Mandela, they've named it after him.
Yes.
thousands and thousands of individuals remember having seen his funeral in the 80s. And the memory has been changed, and there's certain things that have changed. For example, the Berenstain Bears is never been called the Berenstain Bears. In history, it is considered the Berenstain Bears. The McDonald's symbol has changed. It used to be McDonald's, and now it's McDonald's. So there is a controversy that's occurring, and they're saying that the history as we know it is changing. It is being manipulated. How? I don't know, but I can certainly tell you it's supernatural.
Yeah. I didn't realize that about McDonald's, you know?
Yes.
Didn't realize that at all.
Yep. I mean, one of the things was the Big Mac, and I'm not trying to.
Yes. I'm
not trying to plug McDonald's, but they had changed it from Mac to Mick. The Ford symbol was another thing that had apparently changed. There's a few other ones that they remember being totally different in history. And it's not just one person, but it's thousands of people. I mean, look at the catchphrase. What was the big catchphrase in Star Wars when Darth Vader said to his son, everybody remembers it as, "Luke, I am your father." And if you go into the movie and you look at any script out there, you can't find it. It is suggested that he said, "No, I am your father." Again, history's changing.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first saw the Stepford Wives, the original Stepford Wives. And what they have advertised as the original Stepford Wives is completely different now on YouTube from what I saw when it originally came out. Because I remember some scenes in that where there was this gong or something that went off, and the women had to take these pills to keep them subservient to the men.
Yes.
Well, this completely changed, totally changed, and yet when you see it on YouTube, it says the original.
Yes.
And it's not.
Yeah.
So things are definitely changing.
There's claims of Sex and the City and Sex in the City. They say that has changed. I never watched that show. That wasn't, something I had time to watch, but that's again another Mandela effect. So history is changing. Something is being manipulated. I don't know the cause of it. I can't tell you that. I don't think anybody's going to find out, but life is changing,
Absolutely. And history can repeat itself too, so I mean,
it certainly can.
It kind of makes you wonder.
Well, technology is changing. Years ago, we didn't have social media to record these things. And, now that we're all a little bit more independent, it's not one TV per household, one vehicle per household. We all have our own phones, our own laptops, and our own method of the internet, whether we can work them or not. We're able to do more investigations and search things out and find information out.
Yeah. I'm surprised my dog doesn't have his own phone now. I mean, gee, he gets out into the car there. Holy Hannah. He turns the window down. He turns the windshield wipers on. He does this. He does that. He locks the doors. He unlocks the doors. All kinds of fun stuff. Next thing, the little bugger will be driving.
He'll be asking for the keys. Yeah.
Yeah, things are changing all right.
Got it. Yeah.
So anything else about your team in particular that, it sounds like you've got a wide variety of talents and abilities within the members of your team. Is that correct?
Every member on my team, past and present, have been very hard workers. They've all devoted time. Paranormal is something that takes a lot of time. You have to be dedicated to be able to do this. And I have to pat each one on the back and say how proud I am of them. It's something, you're in a scary situation. Sometimes you're put in a situation where you're on your own, or you're being scratched, or you're taken out of your comfort zone. And let me tell you, each one of these members, they duke it out. They do their time. As a team, I like to say we're different from other paranormal teams because I can go in and psychically tell you what I think is going on, but we want to prove why it's occurring. We're not just there to get evidence. We're there to find out why. And a lot of people say, get it out. We don't want it here. We're scared of it. And then they find out that it's Aunt Margaret, and she's been there for the last 60 years, and she's okay. They're okay with it. And usually after the investigations, they'll say, no, it's okay. She can stay. But it's finding out why she's doing the things she's doing. And, we're able to help people. We're able to be clear. We do lots of clearings, spiritual clearings and cleansings, and it makes people feel more comfortable. So, if we can help people sleep better at night and understand what's going on, that's all we want to do.
Exactly. And that's a great feeling to know that you are able to help somebody else who's gone through the same experiences that you have,
Definitely.
So, and I was really quite happy one time when I was able to help somebody in another country. Just by telling them, I was messaging them and telling them certain prayers to say and and smudging and stuff like that to help get rid of certain problems. And so they messaged me back and they said yes, they had done that, and that everything was fine, it worked, everything was cleared. So that was a good thing to know. So I feel I'm on the right path doing that.
Definitely. If we can aid people and give them answers, I think as a paranormal investigator, that's your job. It's not just collecting.
Yes.
There's a selfish aspect. You want to get the evidence. You want to see it and experience it. But we want to be able to get rid of it if we have to, and take the steps necessary to make sure they're protected. A lot of people delve into things and don't understand. The spirit board, or otherwise known as the Ouija board, is something that people, I've never used a Ouija board, I can tell you, but we have done this and this and this. Well, it's all the same. Whether you use a spirit box or you use a Ouija board or you use, a dowsing rod, you are dabbling with the unknown. And unless you know how to use it properly, you are going to get cut, you are going to get hurt, or you are going to experience something that you're not ready for.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the funny part with me. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I don't really equate using the Ouija board with the spirit box, because the Ouija board usually has a number of people who are manipulating the planchette, whereas the spirit box, only one person's using it.
Yes.
And if I say, excuse me, I'm sorry. And if I say, I don't want any evil spirits here, I just want Christian spirits or good spirits, friendly spirits, and you can more or less guide that kind to you. And if somebody does come in that happens to be on the evil side and you just tell them to leave and they do, well, that's why I kind of see a difference.
I think no matter what you use, so a Ouija board, I tell people, when I wipe my feet off at the outside of your door when I'm coming for a visit, I'm going to try and wipe the mud off. But there's always going to be a little piece that comes in too. And it's intentional. It's not something you really expect or you think is coming in, but it is coming in. And so that little girl that you think is a good little girl that you're communicating with may not be a little girl. So it's okay to communicate, but you need to be protected. We use crystals. I use a lot of crystals for vibrations. We do have a prayer, and I protect my children whenever children, or even in my house, my children, I protect them with selenite, and I smudge on a regular basis. But each member of my team has brought something home, and I've had to go through a prayer or told them, do this, do that, and they don't bring it home intentionally. So it does occur. It's just how. We don't know how. We don't know what piece of equipment does it. And, really do your research before you choose to step into that stuff.
Yes, for sure. And there are a number of people who seem to think, well, they watch the TV programs and, well, gee, that looks easy enough, so I can be an investigator. And then they all of a sudden, they go in and they start doing investigations, and then they wonder why something's gone wrong. What's followed them home? How can they get rid of it? Then they end up having to call an investigator in themselves to see what they can do to get rid of whatever infestation they may have.
Yes. Yep. But with anything, there's always going to be that one guy, right? There's always going to be that people, and that's why we are professionals. That's why we are here. Whether it be a dog trainer or a horse trainer or a teacher or a mentor or a mechanic, those people are there to fix the situations. Just be lucky that they're there.
Right. Absolutely. So is there anything else that you would like to add regarding your team or your investigations? Or? Well,
we do not charge for investigations. We like to say that we service all of Ontario and Quebec. We are Canadian. So, if you're listening abroad and, from a different province and you're having an issue, I feel like as paranormal investigators and as a team, we have brothers and sisters. And so if you want to contact us and you hear of us, We may not be able to come out to BC to find the hauntings in your house or your location, but we will find a reputable team for you. You know, that's what we do. We're all brothers and sisters in the world, and you know, we try to solve the problem for you. So if you're having a haunting in your inner area, you know, and this is something that you want, please don't be afraid. It's not worth dwelling on, and it's not worth living in fear. Have us come on out, and if anything, we can try and cleanse it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know we don't charge anything for our services either. It's totally free of charge. We don't charge mileage or anything like that either. So it's just kind of a good feeling to know that you can help other people.
Yes,
when they are having those problems.
And I really think that if a paranormal team is asking for money, really second guess it. I'm not saying it's going to be wrong. A lot of teams will, you know, they will accept donations because it is a labor of love, and it is something that they do with their own money. But I just think that, you know, really beware. If somebody asks you for money for something, maybe perhaps look other areas. You know, find something else.
Absolutely. Right on. It just could be a great come on, you know, and I know there are some that will say, oh yes, well, for such and such an amount of money, I can rid your house of any demon or evil spirit, whatever, any spirit, period. And yeah, I draw the line at that too, for sure.
Well, you know, as a psychic and as, you know, with my team, as we do clearings, you can't guarantee that clearing is going to be permanent. You never can, whether it be a priest doing an exorcism or a shaman, you know, doing a medicine bag. It is not something that nobody knows if it's going to be permanently solving the problem.
Exactly.
You charge for that. You can't.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't feel right charging for it, to be honest with you, because, Katie, I myself, I believe that it's a God-given gift.
Yes.
And if God has given me that gift, then I would not feel right charging someone else to help them, because it's God that's doing the work anyway. He's using me as a tool, as far as I'm concerned, to accomplish that end.
Yeah. As a psychic, I do charge. It is a full-time thing for me. So that's kind of my day job. But I'm not out to make money. I tell people, if you're not satisfied, or if I'm not able to help you, then I certainly won't charge you. That's how I do my work. I feel like I'm honest. I hate the word psychic. I have to say, that's not something I like, because immediately when you think of psychic, you think of a fortune teller with a crystal ball. And to explain all of those claircognizant, clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairescent, all of those things to people, they just don't understand. So it is put into a psychic feeling. You know, as long as people are open to it and understand that not all psychics are the same, and we can't all do what the movies do, you know, I think they're going to get answers.
Yeah, I think so. And people are more accepting of these abilities now than what they were 40, 50 years ago, which is a good thing.
Definitely. And I think too, that's why we're not finding hauntings. You know, the going joke is why is it from the 1800s? Why is it always the ghost from the 1500s, 1800s? It's not from last week. And there are hauntings from last week, but people are more open in terms of crossing to the other side, where years ago, I don't believe that the heaven or the other side is like the Bible says literally. And I think that when people believed in that so strongly, and they were confused, and they didn't cross over, they didn't feel that they were worthy to cross over in any denomination of religion. And so that's why I think we're finding a lot of the hauntings that occur are from way back.
I think so too. I agree with you. And even today, I mean, there are so many different versions of the Bible that it's hard to determine which version is correct.
Yes.
You know, it's been rewritten and rewritten so many times, you don't know which is which. And there are some areas in the Bible that do argue.
Yes.
Like, you know, they say thou shalt not kill, and yet in another area, if you do so and such, you're to be stoned to death.
Yes.
So
I think it's something
it's got to be one or the other.
Yes, and I think it's something that doesn't need to be taken literally. I think a lot of the messages through Bibles, through Buddha, through Allah, through any religion that you believe in, it's not such a literal perspective. It's more of a take what you can in. Love thy neighbor. You know, that doesn't mean you go over and love thy neighbor. You know, you have to read between the lines, right? And so, it's the same with a cross. I tell people, it's not the little stick or piece of wood that you wear on your neck or the piece of metal. It's the conviction behind the cross. It's the faith behind it. Coming together as a religion and believing in it and in prayer is what gives you the power and the positivity behind it.
Yeah, the belief, the faith, that kind of a thing. I mean, reading something is not necessarily going to make you a perfect person by any means.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close, or?
I don't know. It's up to you. I think I'm pretty good. If anybody wants to ever contact us, just give us a shout. You can check us out at CanadianSupernaturalResearchSociety.com, or you can check us out on Facebook. And if you really want a reading or you just want to keep it confidential, you certainly give us a shout. We do not pass any information on unless we get your permission. So don't hesitate. Any of the paranormal teams, if you're ever experiencing a haunting as an individual, contact them. Don't wait. Get answers.
Right on. Well said. Well, thank you so very much, Katie, for being on our show tonight. I hope we can get you back on the show again if you're willing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was my pleasure.
Oh, that's great. I know we did have some technical difficulties before we started, but we finally got it.
It's never a party until there's technical difficulties.
Well, that's what they say. I don't know, and I guess I'm starting to believe that more now. Well, thank you so very much.
No, thank you.
I do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest tonight was Katie Turner. And for those of you who have just tuned in, Katie Turner is a psychic, a reader, a paranormal investigator, and she is also the founder of the Paranormal Investigation, that sounds good, Paranormal Investigation Group, known as Canadian Supernatural Research Society. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Okay.
Canadian Supernatural Research Society. It's a long one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate your patience, believe me.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Okay. You take care, eh?
Thanks.
Right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, please tune in again next week, and we'll see another guest as well. But tonight at 7 o'clock, the show is going on live. The show has been recorded, so it will be on tonight at 7 p.m. Okay? Thanks very much. Take care. Bye for now. God bless.